Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF Is Skulls of the Shogun. This isn't a new game. True, but it was released on an operating system that nobody uses by the name of Windows 8. This was actually one of the flagship gaming titles for Windows 8, and my oh my did that not go well for them. Developed by 17-bit, it was a Windows 8 exclusive, although it was also released on Xbox 360, so if you wanted to run it on an actual computer, you needed to have Windows 8. And it was really advertised as a flagship title for that and the Surface device. Unfortunately, as we have recently found out, Microsoft's support of 17-bit and Skulls of the Shogun was lackluster to say the least, and regardless of the fact that the game received extremely positive reviews almost across the board, it did not do well. Very few people bought it because Microsoft did not back it properly. Now they're bringing it to Windows 7, where people will hopefully actually play it, and it is the Bona Fide edition. Puntastic. With some extra stuff in it. It's got an extra mini-campaign, it's got an extra character, unit that you can use, the Tanuki Monk, I believe is the name of it, and there's also developer commentary, emblems, all sorts of different stuff, and it also includes its rather trademark cross-platform multiplayer, which is pretty cool. You can send turns back and forth different times, basically play by email, and you can play it across platforms. As to how many platforms, I actually have no idea. But Skulls of the Shogun is out on 360 and Windows 8 devices, so I assume it, for the most part, will be between computers, Surface tablets, any kind of Windows 8 tablet, anything like that. I mean, it would run quite nicely on the Razer Edge, I imagine, and things like that, but I don't know if it's Try again. I don't know if it's cross-platform multiplayer between Xbox 360 and the PC. That would be very unusual. Very unusual. We'll see. Okay, so this is the beta version of it. This is the version that the press got, and it has a short part of the campaign as well as Versus. The problem is that nobody is playing Versus right now. I'll give it one more try just for the sake of it. But, yeah, I sat around in the lobby for kind of upwards of an hour yesterday trying to get a game, and nobody has this right now, so it's very, very difficult to show you the multiplayer. So for the moment, I'm going to show you the single player. I may revisit this in a multiplayer match prior to its release, since this title is actually coming out in July, so there is a reasonable amount of time to do that with. Before we do that, though, let's have a quick look at the options. Fairly standard across the board. It is very much a 2D game, so it's for the most part going to run on anything, and there doesn't need to be a huge amount of graphical options in a game that's pretty much flat 2D. So you've got these 4 graphical presets. They don't mean anything. That's actually what really annoys me about it. It's not the sense of, oh, you need 20, 25 different graphics options in order to be decent. In some games, you don't, you know? It's a nice flat 2D game. It's going to run on most things. You don't really need to do that. But what I do want is an explanation of what these mean. 2 out of 4 skulls doesn't mean a damn thing. Not a thing. So, as far as I'm concerned, if you don't explain what this means, how on earth am I supposed to make the right choice if I don't have a particularly good computer? Please explain if you're going to do these presets. Admittedly, it is a beta version, so maybe they'll do that before release, but yeah. Don't just come up with arbitrary things like 2 out of 4 skulls. That doesn't describe graphical fidelity in any way, shape, or form. Dev commentary can be turned on or off. Every level apparently has dev commentary, which is pretty cool. I like that a lot. And text speed off. It's like, what do you mean off? That's a very strange thing indeed, but let's set it to fast, and you can also increase the animation speed as well, which is always nice. Controller vibration, it does support a controller. In fact, the game was very much designed to be used that way, but it works perfectly well with keyboard and mouse, as you might imagine. So, as I said, the campaign is a little bit short, at least in the beta version. Apparently, the full version has like a 20-hour campaign. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the level which most represents the way that the game is actually designed. I'm going to do this one, because this one actually shows you some of the more detailed mechanics. So let's get into it, shall we? Alright, welcome to Skulls of the Shogun. There's some very, very strange characters indeed. And this is part of the tutorial campaign. And it introduces the notion of resource gathering and spending it on different things. So, in this case, I'm going to rock and roll, and I'm going to show you exactly how this works. So, These rice paddies can be haunted by your characters. You move a character up to it, you haunt, that locks them down for a turn, then you gain control of the rice paddy, it then gives you rice every turn. You can use that rice to buy units at different shrines. So we can do that. So, what is Skulls of the Shogun, you might be asking? It's like, what are you talking about? What is all this nonsense? It is a turn-based tactical combat game. You have 5 actions you can take every turn. Those are indicated by these scrolls at the top here. And it is not traditional hex or square-based movement. It's actually based on a circular range of motion, as you can see. This is as far as I can move here. So, let's get one of our guys ready, and we're going to go rock and roll. I'm going to haunt a rice paddy. Yes, indeed. So, in order to select a unit, you just click on it, and then you click where you want it to go. Now, you can also move them around with WASD, which is actually surprisingly a good idea. So we'll just ride them around there. Because this was designed originally with either touch controls or the Xbox 360 pad in mind, WASD actually works very, very well. Alternatively, you can just double-click, so you've got those alternatives. I actually like the feeling of moving my units around with WASD. I don't know why, but it just feels responsive for some reason. And then, of course, either double-click or hit the confirm button. As you can see, I am currently haunting, and it's good. So I'm going to grab some rice from this, and that will enable me to summon different units onto the field. Now, the game does not exactly have a large selection of units. It's got archers, it's got infantry and cavalry, and then there are 4 different kinds of monks, as well as your general at the back that you can use. However, there are a couple of different interesting mechanics in the game. So, why do you think it's called Skulls of the Shogun exactly? Is it just some weird random name? No, actually, it's not. The reason it's called Skulls of the Shogun is because one of the primary mechanics of the game involves eating the skulls of your enemies. Yes, indeed it does. As you kill an enemy, it will drop a skull. You eat its skull in order to gain some power. It will regen some health. It will give you bonus health. And when you eat 3 of them, you actually become a demon. When you become a demon, you gain the ability to attack twice in a turn, and you are really quite the beastly character. So, while there are 3 main units, there are also demon versions of said units. And there are also these monks that you can summon from different shrines. And there are 4 different types of monks, and they're primarily spellcasters that get their spells upgraded as they eat skulls. Your general, if he dies, well, that is as they say that, and he is looking rather angry at this point. I don't want to put him in range of that archer, needless to say, so I'm going to be hiding him behind this location. However, I do have my cavalry, which will very much be able to just charge directly into range and attack. I just want to make sure that I am out of range of the enemies. I don't think the infantry can reach me next turn, so should be able to take him out quite easily. Alright, let's hit him. There we go. I think I actually locked him down and used the... No, I didn't. Never mind. I thought I deselected him and then actually wasted my turn, but that's not true. You can deselect a character and then reselect him, and it's not really too much of a problem. As soon as you double-click him, it actually spends the scroll. So if I were to click on him and then, let's say click on him, that's going to spend another scroll, but I can go back to this guy and actually use him. So that's always good. Okay. So let's rock and roll forward. Can I hit him from here? No, I can't. The game has a lot of really good visual indicators that are not necessarily obvious immediately, which sounds like a weird contradiction, but that's not actually true. If I were in range, he would actually flinch. He would visibly flinch, and that would show that I would be able to attack him. Alternatively, he would raise his weapon and prepare to counterattack. As it stands, I cannot hit him from here, unfortunately. I'm going to hide my guy in the bamboo. That's going to give a percentage miss chance. Do I have another cavalry unit that can charge in? I actually do, as it turns out. I can finish him off. So I'm going to go do that, move into range. I'm going to hide him in the bamboo as well, and we're going to finish him. There we go. So as you can see, he drops the skull, and I'm going to be able to eat that next turn. Eating a skull does, however, cost an action, so it's not something you can do without consequence. And there are times when it's best just leave them on the ground, because there are enemies far too close by. You see the infantry units are now moving into range. That's a miss because I was in the bamboo. 20% miss chance, always nice. Pushing forward, and there we go. So, mechanically, it's fairly easy to grasp. You know, there's a couple of interesting ideas in there, including, of course, the eating of the skulls, as well as so-called spirit walls that can be created by moving your units together. Now, the reason why these spirit walls are in place is very much because of the fact that this game does not use squares or hexes. It uses these radius movement circle thingies. That's the technical term, and I'm sticking to it. So as a result, you can't do what you would think you'd be able to do in a traditional turn-based tactical combat game where you say, all right, I'm going to move my guy here, and I know this guy can't reach me, and I know that I'm blocking this guy's movement. That doesn't happen here. But what you can do is you can create a spirit wall. When these characters close together, like, say, these guys down here, these red rings will appear. You cannot move through this location. Also, it will block arrows, so you have to shoot at the wall, not behind it. So that's how they get around that problem. It's really quite a nice way of doing things. Alright, so I've got an infantry unit there. There's an archer that's going to be in range. Can I charge the archer? I can. And I'm going to do just that. I'm going to completely ignore the infantry unit, and I'm going to go straight for this archer. I want to get him out of the way. You might think, well, why are you eating the skulls? I'm gonna wait a little bit before I do that. It makes no sense to eat the skull and then lose all the health that I just gained. So why would I do that? I can't kill the archer, unfortunately, but I can weaken him. Once he's below half health, he's going to do half damage anyway, so... As I said, a fairly simple game to grasp initially, but it's got quite a lot of nuance. You can do things like knock enemies back. Infantry are particularly good at that. You can knock them out of cover, you can knock them out of the bamboo, you can even knock them off the side of the level or into water, which is a surprisingly effective tactic for the most part. Now, graphically, it's got a really nice style to it. It's also got nice music as well. Like, the overall design of the game, I think, is very, very strong. And it's obvious that they had a really good idea about what they wanted to do, and they went about executing it in the best possible way. The music's a little bit repetitive. I like it, but it's the same track over and over and over again. I'm hoping that's just a beta issue, and there's not going to be a case of them just repeating that track ad nauseum. It's not good. Oh, I made a mistake there. I forgot that there was an archer over there, so down goes one of my guys. Not too great, but I've got the rest of my army advancing. I always replace them once I take control of this shrine. It's definitely got a very nice style to it. Is the gameplay up to snuff? I would certainly say it's more of a casual title, simply in terms of the fact that the mechanics do not have a huge degree of depth. That does not make the game easy. Yeah? We should be abundantly clear that that is not the case. It is not an easy game, but it is a title that does have easy to understand mechanics, easy to grasp. It doesn't have a massive learning curve. Is that a bad thing? Oh, no, it's not. Can it affect the depth of the title? Yes, it can. I don't think there's really a question about that. You know, if I were to compare Skulls of the Shogun to some of the more complex turn-based games, something like Armageddon Empires or something like that, then it would be hard for it to stack up against it. Ooh, nice potion. Excellent. But that doesn't mean it's not fun. It's actually a lot of fun. I think the way that they've executed it in terms of having there be a movement or attack radius as opposed to a more traditional hex or square based game is surprisingly effective. It's definitely not the first game to do it. It certainly is not. But it is one of the games that I think has executed it the best. And as a direct result, it's created a game that's got enough tactical depth to it to be interesting to someone that's into these kind of games, but is also fairly accessible to people. Is it the best turn-based strategy game available? Well, no. No, it definitely isn't. Does it have any problems of its own? It's not stuff that I would point out specifically as problems, just kind of limitations of the systems that they've put in place. Like, a lack of unit choice, for instance. They went for a very small roster of units. Is that acceptable? Yeah, I mean, it is acceptable. They obviously wanted a very small selection of units that you could do different things with, and they were clearly designed for different roles. You don't necessarily have to have 50 different units in place, but I think I would have preferred there to be an awful lot more units than there are. I don't think you have to have 50 units, but only 3 basic combat units, and your general, who is, for the most part, the same as a regular combat unit, although there is the ability to have him meditate and do a couple of other things. It's just... It may disappoint some people that were looking for something a little bit more in depth. And I shot at the wrong target. But again, he wasn't the bamboo, so I guess that wasn't the worst decision I've ever made in my life. Okay. I think my general can get in range, so we can go forward there, and we can do some damage. So he will go down. Always nice. That leaves one archer, and I don't believe he's in a position to kill any more of my guys, so that's always nice. In fact, I can probably pick him off here. There we go. Oh, miss. Come on. It's XCOM syndrome all over again, isn't it? Oh, never mind. Go and munch down on a skull. What I also like about it is that it's surprisingly fast-paced. I think that's because they limited each player to 5 moves a turn. You can take some time to consider what you're doing, but damn it. Generally speaking, it doesn't take too long to get things done in this game. And you can move very, very easily, especially once you get used to it. It does take a little bit of getting used to. As you can see here, you can flip between the units with W, A, S, and D if you so desire. You have to double-click on a unit, and then you can either move them around like this, or you can click where you want to go. I think it's mostly because people are really used to the right-click, but that's not actually what you do at all. Right-click will actually deselect the unit, which is really the last thing that you actually want. Oh, come on! It's gonna be one of those days, isn't it? Alright, let's see if we can go... Right, we'll finish him off this time. There we go, he's been dealt with. And then we could... You know, I really should not have done that, because... I should have just left him there and actually haunted all of these areas now. But no, that actually triggered the second wave, which kind of sucks, but hey, there you go. It's fun. It's got a decent amount going for it. I think the mechanics may start to bore people, especially considering the campaign is very, very long, and they pretty much introduced almost all the mechanics outside of the monks. They show you a monk in the last level of the single player, and it's actually against you. You don't get to summon one of your own, but even then, it's like, is this going to be enough to keep me interested throughout the entire campaign? The dialogue during the campaign and the story is reasonable. It's definitely not bad, but it's also very, very corny. I don't think there's really any question about that. So, some people may like the sense of humor, some people might say, oh, that's just... It's just not particularly clever. It's just designed to be corny, it's got a lot of puns going on with it, a lot of stupid jokes and references, and I'm not really into that. That said, the cross-platform multiplayer and the large variety of maps, I think, is going to help the game out an awful lot. The way that the game gives feedback is in a very... It's in a very stylized way, but it's also very effective. Like, all of the information that I want is properly presented. And if I click on that guy, it's going to say, right, these are the rangers. It's an 80% hit chance because he's there. He's at an extreme range here. He can't counterattack because he's actually flinching. Yeah? If he was wielding his weapon and waving it around in the air, that means he can successfully counterattack. All of the information that I need is given to me, and it's given to me in a nice way, in a way that's nice to look at. And I like that. I mean, that's very, very impressive. They did a really good job there. And also, even though you've got a range of movement as opposed to you can move 4 squares or 4 hexes, you are still able to make very accurate and very precise moves. It's impressive. It actually really is. I think that they did a pretty damn good job with it. I'm gonna haunt this rice paddy here, I think. There we go. I've got nothing else left, I believe, so there we go. Yeah, I think I'll be playing a little bit more of this, especially once people actually get into the multiplayer beta. It's fun. It's got a nice style to it. And they seem to have done a pretty good job of upping the ante in terms of adding content. Instead of just saying, yeah, we released this on Windows 8 a little while ago, and yeah, we're just going to release it again. It's got a decent amount going for it. It's fun, and it really sucks that the 17-bit guys got screwed in what they thought was kind of the deal of a lifetime by a company that very clearly just didn't care. That's sad. Unnecessarily sad. I'm going to eat this skull and become a demon. There we go. It's going to cause them a bunch of problems. So, while limited, a lot of fun. Worth looking into. You can actually, if you pre-order it, you do get into the multiplayer beta. Admittedly, there is currently no one playing it, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend that. And the game is actually set to be released in July on Windows platforms, aside from 8. So yes, you can actually play it on a sensible platform for a change. My name has been TotalBiscuit. Thank you very much for watching. A little look here at Skulls of the Shogun. I will try and bring you a multiplayer game at some point so I can show you the monks in action. Some of the other mechanics. I believe Northern Lion has a copy of this, so consider this your official call-out. Let's rock and or roll, whichever you would prefer. Let's give it a shot, shall we? Thank you very much for watching, folks. I'll see you next time.